And here we are. We are live. I wasn't going to do a show today, but we got a lot of news on Stacey Abrams. A lot of news, by the way, overnight. You saw what was going on in LA. We'll get into that. You saw Garcia is now home being charged with various things. We're going to get into all of this here today, but you know, it was important. I felt that I do an extra show here because just so much going on. Welcome to the program, everyone. I am Trish Regan. We have a lot, as I said, to discuss here today. This is the Trish Regan Show. Make sure you subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. Again, thank you for being here. Big stories coming our way. We've talked in the past about one Stacey Abrams, but now she's being accused, if you would, of a new crime, a new allegation here in terms of her ethics. And after reviewing this throughout the course of yesterday afternoon and this morning, I mean, my big takeaway is this lady is a problem. And you know what? If we have more Democrats out there that are grifters like her, we get a whole big problem going on. And so this needs to get called out. Just for your recollection, Stacey Abrams, remember her down in Georgia? She was the lady who got that big puff piece on her in the New York Times when she refused to concede the election in Georgia, saying, oh, no, I won. Somehow I won. And she was totally fine to do that. In fact, they praised her. They gave her a really big New York Times weekend magazine spread. I mean, this thing was so bad, they were even asking her about her dating life. Oh, you so don't want to go there, right? New York Times did. But, you know, so she's gotten away with quite a bit. She's the one that they were accusing of making off with some $2 billion. Remember the EPA under Biden giving out all these grants for these green energy things. She was one of them, okay? Well, here's the latest and greatest. They're saying this is like friends with serious benefits. Stacey Abrams is accused of funneling improperly some $20.2 million to her really good friend that she went to Spelman College with for a legal fund that was effectively going nowhere. She created a nonprofit to fight the election, you know, the one that New York Times said she was right to fight on the basis of race and said that it was not fair, that she should have won, that the way Georgia penalizes black voters, she didn't have a shot, et cetera, et cetera. And she paid this particular law firm run by her good friend, Allegra, we'll get her name here, Allegra something. She paid her like $20.2 million. And so all this is coming out because it was revealed, and I credit Real Clear Investigations for some of their reporting on this that they emerged with just last night. It was revealed through tax documents, basically, and it puts her in a very bad spot. So she's got this thing called Fair Fight Action. It was one of her nonprofits that she started. This woman's like the queen of nonprofits. I mean, who knew that nonprofits could pay so well? But, you know, hey, you want to talk grift? I'm sorry, but like this looks bad to me. Abrams' Fair Fight Action apparently redirected the tax-exempt donations and government grants to Allegra Lawrence Hardy. That's the woman I was talking about. It's her former campaign chair, actually, between 2019 and 2023. And most of the funds, according to Real Clear Politics, covered legal expenses charged by this boutique law firm that Ms. Allegra Lawrence Hardy from Spelman College, good friend of one Stacey Abrams, co-founded. And it was basically this failed attempt to race bait and to suggest that she should have won against Governor Brian Kemp. And she only lost to him because Georgia has some kind of unfair laws when it comes to voting and that penalizes black people. That was the whole thing. So if you read through this, basically, keep in mind, it's a nonprofit, right? So in their articles of incorporation, Fair Fight Action, the little nonprofit she put together to fight this whole thing, states that the corporation will not be operated for the gain or profit of any individual. Oh, okay. I mean, it might have been for Stacey's gain. I mean, she certainly raised her profile. Heck, she got a New York Times big spread where they actually had the stomach to ask her about her dating. That one caught my eye. I'm sorry. But then also it actually was sort of for the financial benefit, if you would, of her friend Allegra. All right. So this nonprofit put the money straight into Allegra's firm. And in total, it was something like $20.2 million. It's a lot. It's actually a lot. Like it's unusually high. And the IRS doesn't have a breakdown of what they were charging because, lawyers usually charge an hourly rate. So one should be able to get that data, but we don't have it yet. So instead, all we know is that the courts are saying this is kind of high. In fact, Real Clear Investigations interviewed someone, perhaps not the courts yet. I think that it's going to get to that. But they're saying that the costs to litigate the case were extravagant compared with any other voting rights case, and that had been fought in federal court, and that the state of Georgia paid less than $6 million total to defend itself against Stacey's fair fight action. All right, so fair fight action, by the way, is a disaster. $2.5 million in debt. They just had to lay off a whole bunch of people. It's like her MO, right? You go have a little pop-up nonprofit here and a pop-up nonprofit there and another pop-up right there. Oh, and you get to collect money along the way. According to this, guess what? She got $80,000 because she was CEO of this little pop-up called Fair Fight. Okay, so Fair Fight was not a fair fight. Fair Fight, according to these allegations now, was designed to, one, raise the profile of Stacey Abrams, and two, put a lot of money into the pockets of Allegra Lawrence Harding. So, look, she's got a history of this, so none of this should really surprise you. I mean, don't forget New Georgia Project, another one of her pop-ups, okay, which failed to report millions of dollars in contributions and spending tied to her first gubernatorial bid in 2018. Don't forget, Abrams also lost to Kemp in a rematch back in 22. So, She does have a history of this sort of thing, don't forget. And let's keep in mind as well that the whole thing was so failing in the actual court system. In fact, it was an Obama appointed judge that was like, you guys got nothing. Okay, what the heck was this one about? And so now you've got to ask the question, well, why were they out there getting this money from all kinds of people that were putting in these donations to this nonprofit that were tax exempt, by the way, and then they were taking that money, even though it was not in the charter and in the original sort of outline of what the nonprofit was. You're not supposed to use it for anybody's financial gain or any kind of personal gain. But what's being questioned here is whether or not that's in fact what she did. So her allegations, don't forget, in Fair Fight action versus Raffensperger. The suit was claiming that the Georgia Secretary of State, Raffensperger, that their office was denying minorities the right to vote. And the litigation, per Real Clear Politics, promoted Abrams' allegations that she was robbed of victory by Kemp, whom she claimed had disenfranchised blacks through discriminatory voting rules. I mean, what she was, I guess that's because, did they want ID? Oh gosh, you can't ask for ID. I mean, if you're going to get on a Greyhound bus, you got to have an ID. If you're going to get on a plane, you got to have an ID. But Stacey doesn't want you to have an ID to vote. Anyway, during the trial, Allegra Lawrence Hardy, Spelman College, bestie of Stacey Abrams, argued this is a modern day Jim Crow. The lawsuit helped turn Abrams into a celebrity. Like we said, she got the big profile, right? In the New York Times. She's like the only person that could be the election denier. She's the only person that could say, I won Georgia governor, at a time when you couldn't go out and say stuff like that. I mean, hey, I think a lot of people learned the hard way, right? You weren't supposed to say anything. Donald Trump was in all kinds of trouble about that one. And certainly if you repeated anything, but if you were Stacey Abrams, by all means, because you had Fair Fight working for you. And $20.2 million in the pockets of one Ms. Allegra Hardy, apparently, who thought it was a modern day Jim Crow thing. The lawsuit, as we said, helped turn Abrams into this national political figure and celebrity. They're talking about her running, for something, and vice president was actually up there at one point. Oh, I can just see it now. And she became a big deal, sort of in this resistance movement to Donald Trump. It was at the time of Black Lives Matter, et cetera. So she becomes a superstar over this whole case that never had a chance. So let's go to what actually happened, because the federal court decided this was just bogus. So here's the judge. And by the way, he's black. Okay, look, I don't care. It's neither here nor there, but interesting given that, she's saying that this is Jim Crow South and he's an Obama appointed judge. This is Judge Steve C. Jones, the Obama appointee who ruled that Fair Fight failed to provide, quote, direct evidence of a voter who was unable to vote. So they didn't have one voter where they could say this person was unable to vote because of racist election laws. So the lawsuit apparently was always going to be a long shot. Total long shot. People were like, what are they doing? She's trying to prove intentional discrimination in the state's election laws and practices, and there's probably no way that is going to happen. So they lost their case. $20 million, $20,200,000 right down the drain. And by September 2022, a federal court said, you know what? We're dismissing the case, and Fair Fight, you have to pay the legal costs, the court costs, the legal fees of the other side, which amounted to $231,000. It's really kind of remarkable. Again, she paid herself $80,000. Stacey did, to run this whole thing. She's Fair Fight's CEO, right? So she's the one, she's like CEO of all these pop-ups everywhere. But this one in particular had a lot of money backing it, and she was out there fundraising so that she could fight this thing. Fair Fight, very well named. I mean, did you take marketing in school? Stacey, impressive name. Look, she's the ultimate grifter. This woman is a total grifter. I mean, she's already faced fines, 300 and some odd thousand. She's got one nonprofit that's had to lay off everybody because, oh gosh, Donald Trump won't actually give out these federal grants anymore. I mean, it's tough when you can't live off the federal government spigot. Biden was just handing it out like candy. Here you go. You want more money? More money? We got to win Georgia, right? We got to do whatever we can to win Georgia. So, yeah, unbelievable. This is the woman who's her friend, okay? The Spelman College lady friend who got $20.2 million. Here's my thing. Okay, you believe that it is an unfair system in Georgia. If you believe that, Ms. Allegra Lawrence Hardy, then you know what? You take a lot of pro bono cases. You reported a ton of income during those years. And it wasn't just all from Stacey. I mean, a lot of it was, but it wasn't all from her. So, hey, why not take it pro bono? In all seriousness, if you're so passionate about, apparently she is on her bio at her law firm, she says she cares so much about these voting issues and how race is affected or affects voting issues. So, hey, guess what? You've taken pro bonos before. Take it pro bono. Oh, no. She's going to get paid $20 million for a lousy case because they're all grifters. Okay? This thing turns out to be true. It just reinforces what we've already been hearing over and over and over again about Stacey Abrams. I mean, consider what we learned when Donald Trump came into power. And by the way, we'll credit Elon Musk with this, right? And DOGE. I mean, Trump came in and he froze all of Stacey's grants. She's freaking out. I mean, what are they going to do? They don't have the money to keep these things going. And believe me, these were big businesses that had come about thanks to Biden's spigot. In fact, we learned back in February, don't forget, we talked about this, that the EPA head, Lee Zeldin, you remember him, I know him well, he actually would come on the show quite a bit back on Trish Regan Primetime, because he was a congressman from New York and always had a lot of thoughtful things to say. He came out and said there was a shocking $20 billion that Biden was funneling through Citibank, and it was just the tip of the iceberg. And guess what? The nonprofit connected to one Stacey Abrams was getting $2 billion of it. I mean, wow, this, like I said, this is big business, good work if you can get it. Not. Anyway, Stacey Abrams, she effectively admitted it. I think this is in February, sometime maybe in March, spring of 2025, this year, just a couple of months ago. She goes on MSNBC with the guy. He is a guy, I think, that he looks just like Rachel Maddow. I get them confused all the time. Chris Hayes, thank you very much. Okay, so she goes on with Chris Hayes, and she basically admits it. They were getting all this money to go out and buy people appliances. And hey, if you can buy some people some appliances along the way, why not, right? Maybe they'll become Democrats. Maybe they'll go and vote for you. Anyway, the whole thing was so darn sketchy. Lee Zeldin outlined it in one of those meetings, one of those first meetings as Donald Trump came into office. And again, this is sometime around February of 2025. And I bring this up because clearly this woman has a history. Like, she's working it. She knows how to work the system. And I guess she figures, why not? Heck, she believes in reparations. We'll get to that in a second. So, is this her own kind of way of getting what she deserves and making sure her people get what they deserve? Come on, Lee Zeldin.
EPA has now canceled over $22 billion worth of contracts. $2 billion going to this NGO that Stacey Abrams was tied to. They received only $100 in 2023. And then the Biden administration gave them $2 billion. The director of the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund saw his former employer get $5 billion. So $20 billion went to just 8 NGOs, and they're all pass-throughs. And then they were giving it to other entities. Many of them were pass-throughs. And what you have is all these extra middlemen, they're taking their cut. And the taxpayer ends up getting screwed. They're losing out on all this hard-earned money. They can't afford to have the federal government waste. The partnership with DOGE and Elon Musk has been incredible at EPA. Their team is very talented. We wouldn't have been able to do it without them. And of course, this mandate from President Trump to make sure that we identify every last penny, whether we're saving $50,000, $5 million, or $22 billion. We will not rest until every last penny is saved. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to do this for the American public.
Yeah, this is out of control. And what's amazing now is it's all getting exposed. Of course, not according to some. There are those out there, Jasmine Crockett, for example, representative from Texas. I know, Leslie, I'm sorry. I don't know how she got elected either. Leslie's like cringe every time I say her name because Leslie's from Texas here on our chat right now, as I see. Reminding you guys to like and subscribe and share and all that good stuff. So thank you, please do. Anyway, Jasmine Crockett says this is just about race. Like, you wouldn't care if somebody, I'm sorry, it's $2 billion. Like, it's $2 billion. At some point, we care about the $2 billion. We care about the $20 billion. We care about the $20 million, okay? We care. This is our money. And you guys all think the socialists out there, AOC and the rest of them, Ilhan Omar, and I put Stacey in this camp too. Although she says she's a capitalist. She's certainly a capitalist when it comes to her and her friends. She finds ways for them to make money, it seems. But I would say that, you know what? It has nothing to do with race and everything to do with making sure that we are allocating money appropriately. And the socialists out there believe the government can do it. And we capitalists, like Trish Regan right here on the Trish Regan show, we're red-blooded American capitalists who believe that individuals should be deciding where their money goes. But Jasmine says it's just because she's a powerful black woman. That's the only reason they're going after her. Yeah, right.
So to hear the comments about Stacey Abrams, it really got me going. And a lot of times when we come into this hearing room, it's all about politics. And it made me think that there was an issue most likely with Stacey because someone actually brought up the fact that Stacey has run for governor a couple of times. And it seems like there's a gubernatorial race that's coming up in Georgia and nobody knows whether or not Stacey is going to run. So why not muddy the water if we can to hopefully keep a strong black woman down? But again, I digress.
Oh, no, you don't digress. That's your MO. That's your whole thing, right? Strong black woman. They're after me because I'm a strong black woman. But because I'm a strong black woman, I deserve everything, even my first job. You said it, Jasmine.
Say because you've been gracious. Is this. When I first became a public defender, I had no criminal defense experience. And I walked in and I told my boss, Charlie, I said, listen, you should hire me. He said, why? I said, because I'm black. Charlie looked at me like I was crazy.
No. I kind of like Charlie. I'm sorry, but you know what? These days are over. DEI is done. You don't hire me just because I'm a woman. You don't come and watch this show just because I'm a woman. Hopefully you come to this show because there's something interesting to hear. Hopefully it's because I'm good at my job and it has nothing to do with my gender. Because you know what? In a colorless society, in a truly equitable society, your color doesn't matter. Your race doesn't matter. Your gender doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. What matters is whether or not you can do the job. And you shouldn't have to rely on public support to do the job, okay? But this is what this lady was up to. Let's take a good hard look at her. Woo! If you can. Okay. We're not going to get into her dating life. You know, she used to write romance novels. You can't make it up. Stacey Abrams, okay, she got a big spread, big spread in the New York Times back in April of 2019. And they were celebrating the fact that she's like, I won Georgia. I mean, wow. This is kind of weird because, you know, don't forget what happened when Donald Trump tried to suggest anything like it. But they were so fascinated with her. You know, it was very good timing because she had this fair fight thing going on. And, you know, we were going into a very difficult period, right? Given that COVID was happening. You think about March 2020, which was on the way. And you think about Black Lives Matter and the riots, et cetera. Well, there's this one excerpt in here, and I wanted to share this with you guys. The reporter says, I saw that recently you said something like you'd have won your election, but you just didn't get to have the job. So again, she's delegitimizing. He's like, don't you think that maybe you're like fanning some flames here? Because what if Donald Trump tries to delegitimize things? I mean, you're trying to delegitimize things. And she's like, no. Very different things, right? Trump is alleging voter fraud, she said, which suggests that people were trying to vote more than once. Trump offers no empirical evidence to meet his claims. I make my claims based on empirical evidence on a demonstrated pattern of behavior that began with the fact that the person I was dealing with was running the election. If you look at my immediate reaction after the election, I refused to concede. It was largely because I could not prove what had happened, but I knew from some of the calls that something had happened. So she says she's got this evidence, right? Empirical evidence. But let's go back to what the court said, shall we? The black judge appointed by a black president said, you got nothing. You have absolutely, totally, utterly failed to prove, Stacey Abrams, to prove that one person was not able to vote because of their race. He said there was no direct evidence of a voter who was unable to vote. So, you know, this is all a bunch of, you know, this is the gravy train. This is let's make Stacey into a star. Let's spend $20.2 million and we will help her friends along the way. Here we go again with the New York Magazine. I mean, this is what this woman wants, okay? Reparations, all right? This is the problem again. There's no accountability, no sense that, you know, you can do anything yourself. You got to get some kind of extra something. They're talking about structural inequality here. And do you think that reparations make sense? To which she replies, I do. I think that reparations make sense. We need to determine what that looks like because we've refused to have the conversation about it. We're never going to be able to get that analysis and therefore the prescription. But we have to acknowledge that in the United States of America, it wasn't simply that we didn't like a certain group. We've built, no, not we, they. The government built systems, she writes, designed to exclude and to diminish the capacities of communities to participate in their own economic survival. Please. Reparations are a necessary conversation for two groups, African Americans and Native Americans. These are the groups that by law had been stripped of their autonomy, blah, 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 blah. She's a grifter. Okay, this woman is a grifter, and she's got big political aspirations, so it's worth keeping an eye on. But I think even bigger than that, you've got to look at the entire group of Democrats that are out there with these grifting tendencies. The good news is DOGE did come in, thank you, Elon, for that, right? And they exposed so much of it. And so we're going to learn more and more, but I would say right now the IRS has not commented on this, and they have not said whether they are initiating an investigation, but in Georgia they are, and I think that she's going to find out that, you know, you can't just take from the system like that and reward your friends like that and not actually have anything behind it. Again, it gets back to the entire root cause of the problem, if you would, in socialism and communism, because there's no actual goal there. You're not getting a product. You're not getting any return, right, on your investment. This is just Stacey's boondoggle herself to promote Stacey, which she successfully did. So I guess it was worth that. But, the chickens are coming home to roost, are they not? Same people, by the way, like this one, it's Stacey Abrams, that are out there saying, we need to resist Donald Trump. And now you're seeing all kinds of problems out there in LA. Did you see this last night? Some unfortunate video to show you, but let's take... So what you're seeing there is part of the riot scene that took place, or the riots that were taking place in LA yesterday. This was in response to some illegal criminals being detained by ICE, and you have Democrats that do not want this to happen, and they were very vocal about that. In fact, one was Karen Bass, another was Governor Newsom. You remember Karen Bass, right? The mayor of Los Angeles, who took off for some speaking event in the continent of Africa, right as those fires were coming into California. So, she really cares about California. She also put this out yesterday morning. This morning, we received reports of federal immigration enforcement actions in multiple locations in Los Angeles. As mayor of a proud city of immigrants who contribute to our city in so many ways, I am deeply angered by what has taken place. These tactics sow terror in our communities and disrupt basic principles of safety in our city. My office is in close coordination with immigrants' rights communities, organizations. We will not stand for this. So what happened was what I showed you. Lots of riots, lots of problems. In fact, it got really, really ugly. We're going to go to Fox because Kristi Noem was just on this morning, just a couple hours ago. This is, Ice Barbie. And she basically is calling BS on all that Karen Bass is trying to say, all that Gavin Newsom is trying to say. And she's like, I don't believe any of it, because you know what? If they wanted to do the right thing, they would actually enforce law and order. But you'll hear it.
It's bullshit. They don't do it. They don't fight for people.
Right? Listen, it's sort of mind-boggling. When you see what was going down there and you're like, wait a second, LAPD wouldn't come in? They wouldn't help? Like, what's going on? Why? Oh, because they're encouraging this. They actually seem to want this. They actually seem to think that this is good. It's not good, guys. It's not good. What are you trying to do? Bring on some kind of civil war? Is that the goal here? Do I have to remind you that the Constitution is on the side of Donald Trump and the feds and ICE when it comes to immigration? And if you're not going to cooperate, then you actually are part of the problem, right? As Tom Homan would say, you are impeding law enforcement, and this is dangerous stuff. You can't do that. I mean, you can't do that. And she mentioned Tim Walz. Timmy, little Timmy, who's just sad in every possible way, shape, and form, is out there himself calling for the violence. We played this in my shorts feed.
When it's adult like Donald Trump, you bully the out of him.
Whoa. Tim Walz needs serious help. Listen.
Maybe it's time for us to be a little more fierce. Because we have to ferociously push back on this. And again, I'll speak to my teacher colleagues in here. The thing that bothers a teacher more than anything is to watch a bully, to watch this bully and to stop it. And when it's a child, you talk to them and you tell them why bullying's wrong. But when it's adult like Donald Trump, you bully the out of him back.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Democrat Party today. It is. That is the Democrat Party today. And this is the kind of rhetoric they're pushing. We showed this yesterday. Michelle Wu. Sorry. La Monica. We have all these very fun names. Anyway, Michelle Wu out in Boston saying this crazy stuff. Okay. And we're talking crazy stuff. They're trying to dehumanize ICE. They're trying to encourage you to fight ICE, to fight the feds, because we don't want law and order. Not here in Boston with Michelle Wu.
I don't know of any police department that routinely wears masks. We know that there are other groups that routinely wear masks. NSC 131 routinely wears masks.
Mayor, just to clarify, are you comparing ICE, you said, to NSC 131, the neo-Nazi group? Are you comparing them to a neo-Nazi group?
What I said is that Boston police and no police department that I know of at the local level routinely wears masks.
No, that's actually not what you said. Let's listen to what you said. Michelle Wu.
I don't know of any police department that routinely wears masks. We know that there are other groups that routinely wear masks. NSC 131 routinely wears masks.
Mayor, just to clarify.
Yeah, okay, so you said that. Michelle. Woohoo, you said it. So between AOC referring to ICE as these things, these people that she calls things, we played that clip yesterday, Tim Walz, Michelle Wu, and AOC. I mean, there's a concerted effort, if you would, to dehumanize federal law enforcement. And Homan has warned about this repeatedly because at some point, it's going to get dangerous.
It is disgusting. And a lot of our congressional representatives who are vilifying ICE and the Border Patrol every day, they're driving this hate. And I'm telling you, it's only a matter of time before there's an incident where an ICE agent is going to have to take a life or an ICE agent is going to lose a life. I mean, here's the truth. Under President Trump, since he's been back, let me tell you what ICE and the Border Patrol has done. They gave us the most secure border in the history of this nation. Fentanyl trafficking is down over 50%, which means we're saving lives from overdose deaths. Sex trafficking, women and children, is down significantly. Migrant death, over 4,000 aliens died making the journey. They're not dying because they're not coming. Americans, 250,000 Americans died from fentanyl. Like, again, fentanyl is under half of what was coming across. President Trump saving lives. The men and women of ICE are saving lives every day. And if you look at the numbers don't lie. Majority of people ICE is arresting are criminal illegal aliens, public safety threats.
Okay. So what's wrong with getting public safety threats off the streets? Since when did local governments think that it was important to protect public safety threats? I'll tell you, since when? Since Donald Trump came into power, since 2016, actually, ever since he went down the escalator. It used to be the Democrats were actually all for better border control. They used to go after Bush. It was actually one of the things Obama worked in his campaign, that Bush was too lax on borders. I mean, how times have changed. You see, and so it's not all as it seems, ladies and gentlemen. It's not as DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, Ice Barbie, points out. It's all a bunch of BS. They don't care about protecting everyday people. They clearly don't. They care about stirring the pot. Joe Burnell, thank you so much. He wants to see some of these people be put in jail. Look, I think it's actually going to happen. I know people get frustrated, Joe, and people are like, why hasn't Pam done this? Why hasn't Pam done that? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why that went up so oddly. Let me just see if I can get you back onto your comment. I was trying to get your comment on the show. Anyway, he writes, we need to put some of these folks in jail. And I think that could be coming, and it's going to take a little bit of time, and you have to have these investigations and you go through a process. But look, a lot has changed and a lot is happening. But whether you think about what's going out on the West Coast or what's going on here on the East Coast with La Monica, I just love that name, you guys. La Monica, the Monica MacGyver, out there with her big red blazer, just blazing into ICE officers. This was unbelievable. There it is in slow-mo. You see her. She means business, this lady. You don't mess with La Monica. No. She's gonna push her way right through that crowd. Wow. So, this was going on, if you would, in New Jersey just a couple of weeks. You couple that with what was going down in LA, and I think you get yourself a problem. Now, I'll be interested to see what comes of the LA riots. In other words, if we are able to arrest these people and put them in jail for the impediment of federal law officers, I mean, that's the next question, right? Because Alina Hava, she was willing to do that. She got La Monica on violating Title 18 U.S. Section Code Section 111A14 for assaulting, impeding, and interfering with law enforcement. And look, we saw the video. There was no doubt what was going on.
That woman was out of control. She was shoving federal agents. She was out of control. The days of that crap are over in this country. We're going to have law and order.
Yeah, law and order. Okay? And I went through this week. Any which way you look at it, the Constitution is on the side of Donald Trump. Because you've got the naturalization clause, all right, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, which says the Congress shall have the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. The Congress. So now, I realize some of these politicians who say, well, it's Congress, it's not Donald Trump. But here's the thing. Donald Trump is there to enforce the laws that Congress puts in. So until you change the laws, guys, until you change the Constitution so that the feds no longer have the power over naturalization, I think you're going to kind of have to deal with it. Okay, so the federal government has this power. It is why, and we've been through this before, Governor Abbott had such a hard time when Biden's team came along and said, we want to take down the wall in Texas. And he's like, no, please, leave it. It costs more to take it down than to just leave it. And what did they do? They were taking it down. So they were spending all this money so that more people could flood in over the border that they would then have to absorb in the community of Texas. They didn't have the financial wherewithal to do it. Meanwhile, the Constitution also says that we get the Commerce Clause. Okay, I love the Commerce Clause because that actually hits a lot. That gives the feds a whole lot of power because what is it? It's commerce. So when you have commerce that's going from state to state, well, you got to have a uniform set of laws, right? And that affects individuals. It affects people. The Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations. Immigration is cited and interpreted as affecting foreign commerce. Therefore, it falls under the jurisdiction of the feds. You've also got the necessary and proper clause, Article 1, Section 8. Clause 18, to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper to carry out into execution the foregoing powers, which allows Congress to pass immigration laws as needed and to enforce its enumerated powers like naturalization and commerce. So what does that mean? It means, again, Congress is making the laws and we have the laws. And so now the laws are getting enforced. And before you sit there and tell me that, you know what, California can do what California wants to do, New Jersey can do what it wants to do, you can't. You can't because you get the supremacy clause, and then you also have the implied powers clause, right? This has come into question before as recently as 2012, actually, in Arizona versus the United States. And it dealt with exactly this issue, that the federal government does have inherent sovereignty, especially when it comes to national security, diplomacy, policy. I mean, this is not that hard. It's just not that hard. And yet, you go out to, I love this meme, by the way, fire us, because these two were just a disaster in those fires. You go out to Los Angeles, you see this stuff, and, I'm actually not even showing you the worst of it, because there were just so many obscenities. The people were large and in charge and screaming at the individuals that were trying to protect the detention center. They were screaming all kinds of obscenities. And there's another video where they just bash in a door. I mean, it got pretty unruly and uncomfortable, and that shouldn't be happening, not in a peaceful society, right? That is just all wrong. One other story I quickly want to tell you about, and we can talk some more about this perhaps on Monday, but did you see that AP is officially kicked out of the White House briefing room? They're not too happy about this. They are really not happy about this. But I'll tell you, AP kind of had it coming because they have reported a lot of actually false stuff. They'll sit there and say that we're the cheap fakes, right? Trish Regan, how dare you show that video of Joe? Oh, I might as well. Remember this one? I love this. I don't love this, actually. This one scared me.
I better not start the questions. I'll get in trouble.
This was him rather recently, and you see him. He's just
Super Tuesday said, do you have a message for voters?
He looks like he's going to pass out, right? I mean, he totally looks like he is going to pass out. You wonder why the GOP is launching an investigation into the Biden auto pen. That actually ought to show you right then and there, right? I mean, that is some scary video. Then there was this one.
And to the healer Indian River community, the healing, nothing wrong with me.
Yeah, nothing wrong with me. I mean, at least he had a sense of humor about it. But Josh Hawley reported recently on Fox that he heard from Secret Service that the guy was getting lost in his closet every morning. I mean, that is not a good sign. I think we've all, if you reach a certain point in your life, you've experienced a difficult situation with a loved one who has deteriorated. I've experienced it twice. Fortunately, my parents are both still here and doing great. But my grandmother also, my father-in-law, I mean, at some point, you see sort of the deterioration that is very, very stressful, right, to live through. And when you looked at some of that video that was coming in, and I saw it every day, right, like all the feeds that are coming in, I'm seeing the raw tape, all of it. I'm seeing the same stuff as Jake Tapper, as KJP, who conveniently is getting out of the Democrat Party right now, just as the Otto Penn scandal heats up. But, she couldn't get a job in television. Not even The View wanted her. For reports. So, she's going to make a living somehow, I guess. Another grifter. Gosh, we started talking about grifters, and here we get another grifter. But the Associated Press is kind of up a creek without a paddle here. So they get kicked out of the White House briefing room. They sued, and now the judge has ruled that, the president doesn't have to let them in. Because you know what? You can get the same exact access to all of the information. And you can ask questions. Like if I want to right now, I can fire off a question to Caroline Leavitt or to anyone in the administration. Guess what? This administration actually gets back to you. They really do. And so there's no reason that you have to be seated in that special seat up front, Associated Press. I mean, I realize your ego is kind of dented in all this, and they're allowing podcasters to actually come in and ask a question. Heaven forbid. It's kind of reminded me of the time that Joy Behar was going on and on about, oh my gosh, that Joe Rogan. How can anybody listen to Joe Rogan? I mean, we are ABC News. We are backed up by facts. He just talks about how dragons once roamed the earth. And now Joe has like the t-shirt that says Joe Rogan believes in dragons. I love it. It's actually great. Funny. But like, ABC ought to be able to like own up to their craziness, right? You need to get rid of that show. We've talked about that before. I digress. Maybe we can get back to that on Monday. But point is, AP's out. No more AP in the White House briefing room. It's kind of funny. I mean, people would say, oh, Trish, aren't you worked up? You're a journalist. And I'm like, no, I'm not worked up. You know why I'm not worked up? Because I know that AP can still get the story. They're going to have the feed, the Washington, White House feed, the cameras. We can all see it. They can go to YouTube and watch it all right here. If you have any questions, you just fire them in. Okay, but maybe you don't need to be seated in the first row anymore. And AP, I don't think I can really trust you anymore because look at what you tried to tell us in March 2020. Look at what you tried to tell us about the Hunter Biden laptop. Look at all the misinformation that you put out there. And you never questioned any of it. You treated it like it was freaking gospel. So no, I don't have any feelings of remorse for AP. I think they're getting exactly what they deserve. Exactly what they deserve. You know that? Really and truly. Guys, the market is like, once again, on fire. I don't know if you have been noticing this. Let me see if I can show you. Do we have anything where I can show you this? Yeah, because the market was up again. I'm telling you, there's some good stuff coming. We had the jobs report. That was awesome. Did you see the jobs report on Friday? We didn't even get to that. I don't know how we didn't get to that. Normally I'm all over that stuff, right? I live for that stuff. But what we saw was, the jobs report showed that indeed the market is anticipating better things. We had more jobs added to the economy than expected. I think around 139,000. July will be very interesting to see. I was talking to one of my friends, Neil Grossman, actually this morning, who you guys may or may not know from the show. Brilliant investor. And he's very much looking forward to seeing July's numbers, which we won't get till August, to really measure the health of the job market. But right now we're seeing a lot of good stuff. I would just say inflation is coming down, right? Inflation's coming down. That's pretty obvious. Just go to the grocery store. You've got the stock market doing actually great. Like we've recovered all the losses around Liberation Day. If you invested at that time, and I hope you did, I was telling you to, that you're really sitting pretty. And then you've got it's effectively the tariffs situation affecting the trade deficit. And so, these numbers are a little bit wacky only because everybody went out and bought everything in the month prior and in the quarter prior because they knew that the tariffs were coming in. And so now you have the smallest trade deficit on record in like years and years and years. So that's really good news. All of this stuff. So you're adding jobs, you're bringing down inflation. Oh, and wages went up. How can I forget that? Wages went up and inflation's going down. Like that's a nice little scenario, right? You want people to have a little bit more money and couple that with spending power. So if you're interested in investing, and I encourage you, please invest, all right? I don't want to get into, my mom spiel, but you should invest. It's just critical. Compound interest, baby, all right? 76research.com, that's my firm that I started with a dear friend. You can use code word dollar, you get the report for just $1 a month for the first 2 months, and it goes to $9.95. You can cancel anytime, no big deal. You can take a look at Rob's going to kill me because this is not updated. We have the new updated portfolios. You got 8 to 10 stocks in there, each one of them, but we have 3 different portfolios: an income builder, we have inflation protection, American resilience. Just a reminder, we are not, I should just really emphasize this, because we are not managing your money. You are managing your money, but we are telling you what we would do with it. In other words, with these portfolios, these are the stocks that we like. These are the companies we like amid everything that is going on right now. So there's a lot of opportunity, if you would, I think, for smart investing. And we are smart. You know what else I am? I don't know how long this is going to last, but we'll see. We'll see. You never know. We climbed for number 36 last week. Ooh, number 36 on the top 100 podcast list. I don't even know what to say. I mean, we were number 52 the week before. So the bar's getting higher and higher and higher. It's like more stressful. I'm not going to worry about it though. I'm not going to worry about it. The point is, like, you build it, they will come. That's what I've seen here, because I started with literally nothing. I had put a YouTube channel together like years ago, and we had put a couple clips up there from Fox over the years, but I had no one here. And I just started coming on the air and doing a show every day. And what do you know? Like, we're going to be, I think, at 1 million relatively soon. So it just goes to show you, I think that there is a demand and there's a need for very honest and truthful reporting. So we got a lot more to talk about. We'll get into the Garcia stuff. Pam Bondi coming out just yesterday saying that, look, he's facing serious charges and allegations. Maybe you wish he stayed in El Salvador at this point. I don't know, but I think that story is going to be big. We'll keep an eye on that for you over the weekend. We'll be back again live. Great to see so many people. Mike Costa, thank you for being here. TCC, David Lango, Peace of My Mind. Always wonderful to see you all. And I know Leslie's been taking over for Dawn, urging everybody to like and share and make a comment. I do read them all. Thank you so much, guys. I will see you live here again on Monday.